Hello, everyone. Welcome to my show, Ornaments Here. I'm your host, Francie Crawford, and today we have a special guest. We have Takai Ford Hillman, and she is a licensed social worker, and she works with older adults. So let's welcome her to the show. Welcome, Takai.
Thank you, Francine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming and sharing some information with us on Ornaments Here. We just want to start with talking a little bit about yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about Takai?
Sure. Well, I am first generation born American. My family is from the Caribbean, Barbados. And I am a licensed social worker, as you mentioned, as well as a caregiver. I'm a wife, and an auntie, that I'm very proud to be, and just a lover of the work that I do with older adults, particularly. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Okay, so you're a licensed social worker.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that field?
So I would have to say my love for helping people started early when I was a child. I grew up very close to my grandparents. One thing that I can thank both of my parents for was being able to establish a loving and wonderful filled relationship with both sides. My grandmother migrated from Barbados in the 1970s with my grandfather, who was her husband, and my father came shortly after. My parents met here, and I'm their firstborn, and so I was able to share my upbringing with my grandparents. Right, like the family unit cannot, she is the matriarch of our family, and my parents wouldn't be able to work and take care of me and my sister without the support of her, and so many days, a lot of my times were spent with her and her friends within the neighborhood. They're homeowners, and so like it was great to just be able to experience everyone who grew up in my neighborhood of Queens, and my first set of friends were seniors, and I thought that was normal. Right. And I thought that was just something that, like you just have friends that are older than you.
Right.
So, I sat around for all of the games, playing checkers, hearing great stories, and really just being important too from a young age. And I then realized that, when I get older, I want to have the opportunity to give back, because I am who I am today because of women and seniors who have just opened their arms, poured wisdom into me. And what better way of having the opportunity to do something for them? My grandmother was a nurse, so she wanted me to become one. I can't stand the sight of needles, blood. So that was out. And I figured what I could heal older adults and be there for them in a different way. And I chose the path of social work. And it's always been rewarding. Students have always said, like, I know I want to help people, but I don't know what demographic I want to work with. I always knew I wanted to work with seniors. I'm like, it's fun. You get to learn as well as you get to offer. So I wanted that to be my career and be a part of the profession.
So you were just comfortable with them.
Yeah.
As you grew up with them.
Yeah. I mean, the beauty about getting older is there's less pressures of how you're showing up in the world, right? You've given everything that you have given to the world, right? And now this is your time to just be you. And so authenticity has always been a very important thing to me. And just to see, older adults just be authentic, right? Say what they got to say, not worry about who's watching, and take me as I am. And I love being around that, but also respecting their boundaries and like the position of not treating them as children, right? They have been here longer than you and me.
Right.
They know quite a great deal, but they're also open to receiving more and wanting more. And being a part of that journey with them has been just a wonderful experience.
Awesome. So tell us some of the things that you do, or some of the work that you do with older adults.
So I started off within social work. All students have to do internships, right? Getting experience hands-on is one of the best ways of connecting to the profession. They teach a lot in the book, but you have to be in the space to learn. And so I I interned in older adult centers to start off, right? Having the ability to work with them doing activities, but also assisting them on finding different ways of transportation when they're not able to take the bus or the train. If they are having food insecurity, assisting them with, understanding the different benefits and entitlements and entities that are out there to help. Understanding as you get older, there may be some activities of daily living like bathing, washing, being able to feed yourself, or instrumental activities of daily living, as they're called, where paying bills, being able to cook for yourself, being able to clean up, your home or your apartment, and that just being a little more difficult. And that doesn't just happen as you get older. It can happen at any part of your life. For me personally, I dealt with the experience of having Crohn's disease, and I was diagnosed at 17. So I also could relate to the inability to kind of do things that I normally could do, and understanding the stages of adaptation for an older adult when it comes to needing extra help, but also spending more time having that sense of independence and doing it on your own, and allowing both of us to kind of connect on it's okay to get assistance. It's okay to, have the community roll around you and be there, right? And also letting them know that they have they poured so much. It's time to receive your flowers.
Well, how do they get assistance? Like, there are some older people that have always been on their own and they work, retired and whatever. They don't know how to go out and reach out and get assistance. Do you go to a senior place? Do you ask the doctor? Do you go to how do you connect to social? How do they pull out and do that?
So my role and the role of organizations that I currently work for and organizations throughout New York City is to spread the word, right? It's not for them to come to us and find out. It's for them to know and meet them where they are. In churches, in the barbershop, at the hair salon, in spaces that they are in every single day, and pouring that information of, if you need this is here, right? If you know someone who's in need, this is here. Education is a crucial part of being able to serve in any capacity. It doesn't mean you have to go to school to do that. It's just having the opportunity to listen and learn, and your standard space is not being like, let this group come to me, let me go to this group, right? Meet them where they are. Like, the first stage of social work is meeting the client where they are. Person-centric work is that. And so that's what I do. I do presentations all throughout New York City on the different services that are serving older adults, and entities like this where I can speak about it and someone can hear about it and then ask questions, and having the ability to connect. There's a lot of things you just don't know, but there's a lot of things that are out there that you have to let people know, and spreading the word, pouring into one person. Remember the game of telephone? You tell one person, it goes to it is crucial and necessary, because there's a lot of older adults that are suffering in silence that don't have to.
What kind of programs are out there for them?
There's everything to congregate-based services like older adult centers, or they're also known as senior centers. There are Meals on Wheels program for older adults or seniors who cannot get out the home, where they have someone come and bring a meal and at least check on them all day, check on them once a day. There are case management services where if they need help paying their bills or financial management, that's also out there. There's friendly visiting services such as like chats, where they can connect with a person who has the same interests as them, and over the phone. And all of these services are free 99, and a lot of people don't know they don't have to pay anything, right? The city is really sees it as an important thing to do and offer, as well as the ability, to take care of family. Like I said, my parents wouldn't have been able to take care of us without my grandparents. And as the role switches, right, where they're not able to do as much on their own, there are services to help people to be able to work as well as take care of their family. So home care is another service that they offer, and there's many entities of variations of home care. A lot of older adults become scared about getting older. One, they're worried about the challenge that it may pose on their family, the challenge that it poses on themselves, the cost of living, right? Sometimes your income doesn't change when you are retired and you're on Social Security. But there's so many things that the city of New York allows us to for them to have for free because they understand older adults matter, right? They matter. Their well-being matters, right? Their the social determinants of health matter. It means the most to take care of them, right? And to not have the recidivism of keep going into the hospital settings for things that could be treated right in the home.
Right.
There's health service programs that will come and make sure that you have medical equipment. There's a lot of your insurance covers a lot of things that you just don't know. And sometimes it just takes the moment to have the conversation, listen to know what's out there. In my times of working one-on-one with clients, I said, this may not be pertaining to you, but it might be pertaining to someone you know. Because sometimes taking the onus off of that person, like this is about you, is helpful because it's like, I can park this on the side for me when I need it, but I also have this information for people who I, talk to, my neighbors, my family, and let them know what is out there. Presentations are done throughout New York City. As I mentioned before, we go to churches, we go to community events, block parties, we'll go to back to school events because in New York, there's multi-generational families. Grandma, mom, and kid and children are all living in the same household. And they're all coming to community events. Why wait till when it's something specifically for older adults? You meet them where they are.
Okay. Well, since you work with older adults for so long, what are some of the common questions that they have or common challenges that they may have?
In my experience, a major one is food insecurity and isolation.
Wow.
And the aspect of both things can significantly impact the emotional and well-being of an older adult, right? Think about it. If you're in your home 24 hours a day and you don't speak to anyone, no one's calling on the phone, no one's coming by to see you, you have no one. Imagine what that poses on the mind, right? Of self-worth, of dignity, of mattering, right? Of am I being seen? And so we see that with that, a lot of things come up as far as me not having adequate food in the home and not sharing that with anybody, not being able to pay their bills because maybe their partner or spouse has passed and that was the person that took care of everything in the household.
Right.
And now they have to do it for themselves. And also just your standard cultural norms of like, we keep everything in the family. We don't talk about things with outside folks.
Yeah.
I grew up in a household where, we took care of one another, but we didn't have to do it alone. We still don't. And even for me as a caregiver myself, I realized although I'm in the realm of social work, I need just as much help taking care of my loved ones too. And I did. I had a grandfather who had dementia. He had Alzheimer's. He passed. And, my grandmother's mobility had declined significantly since I was a teenager. And my dad was the only person who migrated from our country to the United States. So when he passed, me being the oldest, it kind of pushed me to kind of step in his shoes and take care of my grandparents. And although I had all the education in the world to understand older adults and, how, what their needs may be, what's important, making sure there's certain care and services, I did not know what I was getting into when it came to having to balance out doing it day to day for work, as well as coming home and making sure that all their needs were met.
What was the biggest thing that you learned?
The biggest thing that I learned was the emotional. It was hard for me from a personal aspect with my grandfather, who I looked up to. This This is the man who taught me how to ride a bike, right? This is the man who would always give me candy, when I was a kid, spoiled me, in a sense, rotten when I was a child, always had my back, superhero, being able to, I can easily remember, like standing on top of his shoulders as a kid and him just walking me around, to being the one who had to kind of take care of him. And there's a saying in the Caribbean, once a man, twice a child. And growing up, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? But to see someone who came full circle, not being able to do the standard functions of just eating, bathing, right? You know, taking care of themselves and having to do it. And culturally, for the men in my family, it's always been about taking care of the household, right? That sense of patriarchal duty to taking care of the women in their family, and then having to be taken care of women, right? Being the woman taking care of a man, and it being hard for him. I remember just being frustrated at times from coming home from work from a long day, and at that time I was working in a setting where I was listening to a lot of traumatic stories about older adults who have been victimizations of elder abuse. And, then coming home and, my grandfather having an episode or something and not recognizing who's in the house, and, or not listening or starting yelling. And then 2 minutes later, he's like, hey, kiddo, like nothing ever happened. And just that emotional toll of understanding that this disease really impacts not only them as the person, but the unit. Again, like I said, my grandmother's used to being taken care of by her husband. And then although her mind is still sharp at 98, not having the physical ability to offer him what he needed. And understanding that I couldn't do it by myself, right? I had my mother, those were her in-laws, but her support in taking care of them. She understood she wanted me to flourish in my career. So she took a lot of the day-to-day, making sure like there was food in the house for them, paying their bill, saying like, listen, I really want you to flourish in your youth and the things that matter to you. And I'm playing a major part in that, but still just an impact, right, of seeing it and having to totally understand how the disease affects them, right? Not fighting with them about what they're hearing or seeing, and just kind of going with it was one thing significant. My grandfather, one thing that will always stay in my mind when he was lucid, we were sitting at the table and we were just chatting, and he said, growing up, my mother, taught us to take care of people, like, take your shirt off your back to give to someone. Like we've taken in homeless, and given up our beds so that they could rest for a night in a bed. And, I've always been good to people. I've always given them myself. And he was like, why would God want me to forget that? Woo! Wow. And thinking about that, and I looked at him and I was saddened by him thinking like, understanding his condition, understanding his disease. And I just said to him, I was like, it's for us to remember. Okay. We'll take a break. Woo! Tissue.
Yeah, as far as just go back and revisit and, touch on things that made us, made us happy. And then, sad, you think about the good times, and they had to go through that.
Yeah, he had such a good spirit.
Yeah.
Genuine good person.
Yeah.
He never cursed. And I don't know too many people who don't curse. He never cursed. He never yelled. Even with my grandmother, it was always, okay, sweetheart. Okay, sweetie. Okay, darling. Even when I know she was driving him crazy. He was a soft spirit. And you could tell that this disease made him, he was suffering.
Yeah.
One of the things that I appreciate that my mom played an instrumental role in, as well as my grandparents, was making sure that their advance directives were in place. Meaning when they did not have the ability to take care of themselves, that their wishes were laid out, from everything from a living will to a power of attorney to a healthcare proxy. They didn't want anyone to have to make difficult decisions in the heat of the moment, which is one of the hardest things. And particularly within our community, you don't want to think about death, right? It's too daunting. It's too overwhelming. Like, why would we think about the end? But it's not thinking about the end. It's thinking about the journey to transitioning and the people that you love and care about. So making sure they don't have to.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
They were thinking about you.
Yeah.
They were thinking about when I
can't
have to deal with.
Yeah.
When I can make it easier for you.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And it was one of the things that, I definitely push with older adults when I'm speaking to them about advance directives, about the importance of it, right? If they have property in a state, don't leave it where you have family, saying, well, they wanted this and they wanted that. When you have things in writing, like as the Caribbeans say, black and white don't lie, right? If it's on paper, it is real, it is, and it's there, right? Nobody has to second guess what you would choose because they know. And I said, this is where you're in the most control, right? When you may not be in control. And for my grandfather, I appreciated that from him, that he made sure that he knew that he didn't want to be connected to any tubes. He did not want any sustaining type of medicine offered to him when it was time for him to transition. He just wanted to go
Peaceful.
and we honor that. As difficult as it may be to watch,
Right.
we honor that. And even when towards the end, when he was hospitalized, you could see the joy that he knew, like, I'm not going to suffer anymore.
So as a social worker, you had the knowledge.
I had knowledge.
But this emotional impact that it's your family member and then really going through it, it really impacted you.
Yeah, I'm human.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I did my profession. I wear it like a cape, but I'm a human, right? And I live, I love, right? I feel just like any other person who may not have my background. And these decisions I don't take lightly when I'm having these conversations. These are hard decisions, right? These are things that families, there's never a right time or a good time to have that conversation, right? But it is necessary to have. It is for the benefit of that person's wishes, but it's also the benefit that you don't have to figure things out. That's where we got to figure out so much stuff. Why not offer a moment in time where you don't have to figure things out?
Right.
And then also, outside of thinking about advance directives, also just day in and day out, right? A lot of older adults, as they get older, there's a lot of loss, right? Right? They may be retiring, so they are losing that entity of career. As much as it is a choice, there's still a loss there, right? Same way when kids go off to college, there's a sense of duty that parents have of like, well, my child's not here every single day, right? Like there's an aspect of loss there, and an adaptation of understanding who you are and how you fit when these roles kind of taper off. So with older adults, even with friends, right? Friends passing, friends moving, right? Sometimes friends go into assisted livings or nursing homes. They're not your next door neighbor. They're the family's selling the house. Their friend that lived next door is now moving in with their children.
Yeah.
There's loss there, right? And a loss of community. And so as much as they had something very sustaining that we all saw, they tend to silently, go through this by themselves without knowing that they can create community again.
Right.
And it's out there, right? And they may have it in church, and they may have it, at the local spots that they come to in the community, but there's so many ways that they can be introduced to things that they love. I love the older adult centers because they give you a taste of everything. Not only could you get a hot meal, right? You get activities, everything from health and exercise and wellness, physical, because just because you're getting older doesn't, everything still moves and it needs to move, right? And I've seen classes that have flourished and seen older adults that really feel good, and you can see the confidence that they have. They also have activities of art and sharing their art as well, and all the things that matters to them, and still being able to do that with other older adults.
So what would you say as a social worker and as someone who actually has gone through being a caregiver, what would you say to share with the audience, that things that they should know, that things that
they should know that there is an answer to practically almost every scenario that they may have. It may not be an easy route, but there is something out there in an area throughout New York City that on a program that can assist. Everything from caregiving. There's caregiver support programs in every borough. Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Staten Island. There are programs of support of respite. New York State alone has one of the highest areas of respite care, meaning like they offer services from anything from having someone just come in home when you're the caregiver for that person and you need to take a vacation, right? Some people think they can't take a vacation because they're taking care of their mom and their mom can't be left alone. There's respite care out there. There's home care services where, you know, your loved one can get a few hours or 24 hours of care. Example, my grandmother gets 24 hours of care, and I could not be able to do what I'm doing and have the ability to find love, right, to get married and things of that nature without the assistance of care from someone coming home and caring for her. You know, a lot, when I first started, I thought a lot of it fell on me. I had to do everything, right? One, because I was taught that you take care of family, and my career and my profession taught me I don't have to do this alone. People don't have to do this alone.
All right, so you knew from that.
And these services were put in place so that people don't have to suffer in silence or face challenges on their own. 311 is a great entity. New York City Aging, there is a federally funded department for the aging throughout the United States. It works in different capacities in every state. In New York State, it is quite funded, and there are plethora of different services, everything from legal services to older adults who may be victimized of elder abuse, to nutritional services, to health services, to mental health, right? Because our minds still work. We've gone through traumatic experiences, and you're never too old to sit down and have a conversation and talk with someone and receive healing. I'm a firm believer in that. There are congregate sites where you can socialize. For those who can't, there are services that you can just get right in a home, sitting down. All you have to do is open the door and they'll come to you.
It's good to know.
Right? There's no one size fits all. There's a plethora of different sizes, and there are services out there for people.
Okay. Well, thank you, Takai, for sharing your story and sharing, you know, your personal information and also your professional knowledge.
Thank you
for the work that you're doing with older adults for years. You know, sometimes some people are uncomfortable with older adults and they're just getting into that when they're older. You were able to take what you knew as you were younger, you were comfortable to just continue it and to help, you know, your community with older adults and in your career. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Listen, the one thing we hope to do is get older, right? No one is here to die young, right? So my goal is always to pave the way for when it's my time, and making sure that there are services there to even support me if I'm in need. But also while I'm here and in this present moment, making sure that people know that there are things out there. There are ways to get help. There's ways to get assistance, and it actually strengthens the family unit more than it divides.
And you don't have to do it alone.
And you don't have to do it alone. Oh, okay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming out and sharing information with Autumn is here.
Thank you for having me.
Remember to watch Autumn is Here on all social media platforms.